guys, and welcome to lesson 4, reaching limits and reaching out. So what we're going to be talking today is identifying stress thresholds and indicate some immediate help, that is when immediate help is needed. We're going to develop some knowledge and ways on how to support other teens and ourselves in crisis, and then maybe identify triggers in your own lives in which you may need outside help. So these are our learning outcomes for today and the things we're going to be focusing on. So what you need to understand and what you need to remember is that there are 6 coping styles, okay? There's anxious, conforming, self-punishing, obsessive competitive, angry, and fearful. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to read you all these situations, all 6 situations dealing with the 6 coping styles, okay? So after I read them, we're just going to move on through the next one, and then I'll explain what happens next, okay? But at this point, you just need to kind of listen to the stories because you're going to need to know this for your next activity, okay? So let's start with anxious, okay? Garrett is always worried. When he opens his mouth, it's usually to say something sarcastic or negative, like, yeah, right, our team is going to beat South High. But often he doesn't talk. When at home, he goes into his room and closes the door and stays there all night, coming out only for dinner. When at school, he avoids situations where he might get angry or look stupid. Before a school debate last year, he felt so nervous he literally got sick. Rather, he felt sick, although the doctor said it was just a cold or something, and not to worry. Even on days when he feels fine, he's had a hard time getting up in the morning. Things are so boring. He feels incredibly tired most of the day. What really bothers him is when he's under pressure to make decisions or choices. Who should he invite to homecoming? What should he wear to the dance? Ought he to attend the basketball game tonight when science quiz is scheduled for the next day? With all the possible things that could go wrong, that could make him look foolish, it's really hard to take action. So, as you can see in Garrett's story, he feels very anxious. He's worried about a lot of things going on. And that is one way to cope with, our anxiety, is just to kind of avoid things and feel anxious. There's a lot of feelings around anxious, okay? The next one we're going to talk about is conforming, okay? Betsy and Jana are twins, but they're opposites in every way but one. They are both conforming, going along with the things to gain approval and acceptance, but they have chosen different models to go along with. Betsy is aggressively popular with all the fast kids. At 13, she's done most things she thinks adults or popular kids things do. For example, she's tried marijuana and cocaine. She drinks beer with the guys. She's gone all the way with her boyfriend. And last year, she had her nose pierced, just like the punkers who hang out at the mall. These accomplishments have earned her a solid place in the in crowd. Sister Jana has chosen a very different path. She is so impossibly good. She does everything she is told. Her parents obviously prefer her to Betsy. She's home most weekend nights studying, and her dad still calls her my little Jana. Jada has never missed an assignment or gone to school unprepared or done anything that might question a teacher's authority. Betsy is never at home. Jana never leaves. So, conforming. What that means essentially is that you kind of conform to the norm. You follow the crowd, those kinds of things. You want to be like everybody else. Conforming is one of the many styles that teens struggle with every single day. And I'm sure some of you that are taking this class have dealt with conforming. I know I have myself in the past. And it's a hard thing as a teen. So very, very, very relevant. The next one is self-punishing. So a fragile but extreme pretty young woman, Sarah, seems perfect on the outside. Her smooth face, blonde hair, and straight white teeth are a status symbol so many other teens seem to want. But she knows she's not nearly as beautiful as her sister. In fact, in so many ways, she feels inadequate. The skirts her mother bought just last week makes her look fat. although she dropped 20 pounds in the last 3 months and is down to 98 pounds. Basically, food makes her sick, and she wouldn't mind if she never ate again. Even after studying as hard as she could, she only got a B+ on her math test. Her father, the professor, only shook his head in pained dismay when he reviewed her test with her. She knows her mother is extremely disapproving of the virtual any boy that seems to be interested in her. Even though Sarah is just a freshman, junior and senior boys have called her on the telephone. Sarah doesn't feel comfortable with them. The only boy she's dated made fun of the way she walked and the music station she selected in the car radio. The other girls call her stuck up and a snob, but she really isn't. She doesn't understand what is going on. And why do I feel so alone, she wonders. What can't I do anything right, and why am I so unloved? Last night, sitting at home watching a late-night TV, she wondered what it would feel like to take all those asthma pills in the bottle at once. Now, as you can see, she's doing some self-punishing thoughts by thinking about taking the bottle of the asthma pills. And the hard part is that oftentimes we do things that are self-punishing. Maybe she's becoming addicted to drugs. Maybe she's thinking about drinking alcohol. Maybe she has some issues with some self-image, and maybe she is dealing with an eating disorder. These are all very relevant things that can cause self-punishing to ourselves. So let's talk about the next one. Obsessive competitive. All right. So Gary appears to have more confidence than Kansas has grass, than Los Angeles has freeways. He says he never worries because luck is surely on his side, but he's competitive spirit, so it's so obvious. He'll do just about anything to win. If the car in the next lane is going fast, he'll go faster, just to beat the other guy to the light. He's also ready to gamble and to challenge the odds. On a poker night, or basketball or football night, you'll find no happier guy because Gary loves the prospect of winning, and taking your money usually has a little to be going on the side. Life kind of owes Gary, anyhow. So even when it looks like he might lose, he does what he needs to do to make sure he doesn't get the short end of the stick. Take those stupid school exams, for instance. A busy guy like Gary can't always study. So what's the harm in taking a test out of the teacher's desk drawer the night before, photocopying it, and getting it back so no one is the wiser? Life is just a game anyway. We all know that. So why not do what you have to do to come out on top? The obsessive competitive person with coping is obviously dealing with a lot of other stressors in their life. Obviously, you're trying to be talking about being competitive and that you want to be on top. But that's all you think about. And then sometimes you can lean into narcissistic behaviors, such as that. The other one we're going to talk about is anger, being angry. Darren has a lot of contentment for other people, especially adults, and especially Ben. If an older guy were to ask Darren a simple question like, "Are you going to the game tonight?" Darren might say, "Why do you ask? Is it any of your business? Why should I go to the game if I want to?" Or he might throw a sneer or a sullen look just to let the other guy know he is less than dirt. Basically, Darren is always looking for a fight, even when he's quietly not participating, not saying a word, or he's provoking other people by not giving them what they want, by not doing what they asked him to do. Once put on the spot, Darren has so many good excuses. Other people are nearly always to blame, and he is never responsible or at fault. You might say this world is Darren's battlefield. He assumes most people are going to control him, humiliate him, or keep him in their power. He would like to show them he is more powerful than anyone else, and he's ready to prove it by breaking the rules, breaking some windows, and maybe even breaking a few legs. Obviously, Darren has a lot of anger that he's working through, but there may be some reasons for that. And if you take a step back, you might understand that maybe Darren has experienced some things in his life that have made him be so angry and feeling this way. The last thing we're going to talk about is fearful. All right. Gina blames herself for her younger brother's bad behavior. If Gina had only remembered to wait for him after school, Johnny wouldn't have thrown a tantrum at the bus stop and hit a little girl next door. It is so hard to do everything one is told to do. With her mom working, Gina takes care of her younger brother and sisters after school. She makes dinner, does their homework with them, cleans her room, and takes care of their pets. On some days, the demands just seem so overwhelming. When she tries to tell her mom she can't do everything, her mom gets so upset. Gina hates it when her mom cries or communicates her disapproval. When that happens, Gina clings to her stuffed animals in her tiny bedroom. That's the only space of the house where she feels safe. On the mother's boyfriends escalate to shouting and throwing things. Gina feels most afraid. Things at school seem equally messed up. Actually, things are so bad, she might as well run away. No one would really miss her. They only miss the maid. Somewhere out there, there's gotta be someone who's willing to help her. She's 16 and can legally drop out of school anyway. Some people think she looks 18. Perhaps I can find an older friend, she thinks, like a handsome man who would really love me. So, fearful is the very last one we talked about. Obviously, there's some pretty big situations happening for Gina and how she's dealing with her life right now. So, letting go of unnecessary stress. One of the things we're going to talk about is obviously we're going to come back to the 6 coping styles of teens and stress. Again, they were anxious, conforming, self-punishing, obsessive competitive, angry, and fearful. You're going to need to remember those. So just make sure you have an understanding what those are and kind of what that looks like. So letting go of unnecessary stress. Now, one of the things I want to relate back to is back in our lesson 2, we talked about how stressors are not under our control while some are. Some are unforeseeable, some are unavoidable, and sometimes they can be both. Sometimes we need to understand that no matter how awful, a way to mentally reframe the situation and adjusting out of stress is by changing our perspectives and our expectations to things. So let's talk a little bit about that. We often want to find a way to gain some control over the stressors. So a really good way to do that is to name it, label it, and write it down on a piece of paper, and then sometimes tear it to shreds, or put it on fire, light it with a candle or whatnot. Like, just let it go. Allow yourself to be able to forget about these stressors. Be able to identify the things that are stressing you. Make sure that you are confronting somebody or confronting the situation if it's been lurking over you. Let other people know how you feel, because sometimes how you change your mental attitude about it, sometimes how you change how you're feeling, it isn't always going to fix the situation, but it can help you deal with the situation. The thing is we all go through stress. It's a matter of the unnecessary parts of stress and what's the reality of our stress. We all have the power to overcome being anxious, conforming, self-punishing behaviors, competitive behaviors, anger, and fearful behavior. We have the ability to overcome that. Again, there are things in our life we can't control, and sometimes when we are teenagers, we feel like we don't have any control because the adults essentially run our lives. However, you have the control to deal with these stressors. Okay, so I want you to understand that sharing problems with a friend or an adult you trust is always a good idea. And it's never, ever, ever a sign of weakness. Make sure that you understand that it's okay to ask for help when you need it, and make sure that understanding your own stress and what stresses you out might be different for somebody else. You too might have experienced the same situation, but just because you feel one way and a person feels different doesn't mean that it's any less valid. So just understand that there's ways of letting go of unnecessary stress, and it starts by talking about it with a trusted adult, a trusted friend, somebody, okay? As we go into our next session tomorrow, we're going to learn better ways of empowering ourselves and broadening the knowledge so we can learn more life skills of how to handle this stress. Okay, so your next steps. Make sure you answer the discussion posts, and then I want you to complete an assignment 4 that goes along with this lesson, okay? Tomorrow we're going to start with lesson 5, and that should, we're about halfway through our week, okay? If you have any questions, please email me or let me know. And other than that, let's get to work. Have a great day.